This is Hellbrent for Leather, and you're watching Cast in the Act. Hey everybody, welcome back to Cast in the Act. Thanks for bearing in there with me on this little bit of a hiatus that I had. I've been gone for about the last 5 or 6 weeks. I took off some time because I really wasn't home for most of it. I talked about it a little bit on the last show that I had, but I figured I would come on with a cool recap of some stuff that happened and some stuff that I'm hoping is coming. First off, let's kick this off. Today, as I record this, it is October the 5th. And it is Brian Ross's 71st birthday. Happy birthday. As I said on my Facebook page earlier and on my Instagram, that it's really cool to have someone that you greatly idolize as being one of the greatest frontmen of all time. As I said, I think it's very fair to call Kai Hansen the godfather of power metal. Most people do, and I wholeheartedly agree with that title. I think it is also very fair to call Brian Ross the godfather of the new wave of British heavy metal, as he was not there at the very, 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 very beginning, perhaps. Perhaps he was, kind of depending on how you look at it and such. But I think that in terms of, his time in Avenger, his time in Blitzkrieg, his time in Satan, I mean, that's 3 really high-profile new wave of British heavy metal bands, in my opinion, and 3 of the best. And he had his fingerprints or his entire being within all 3 of those. And I'm really, really happy to have gone from just being a fan of his and idolizing the guy to now being able to call him a friend. So happy birthday, Brian. I hope you have many, many more. And I hope that that no one lets your voice in on the fact that that it is no longer 20, 25 years old. Because your voice is still killing it and you're still killing it. And I hope you do so for many years to come. But so, yeah, I took off some time because I went down to Atlanta for ProgpowerUSA, which is a great festival out of Atlanta that's been going on now. Next year will be its 25th year, or I guess 25th festival. It's been 26 years, I believe. Or maybe it has only been 25. I don't remember because there was one year where there were 2 in the same year. And then there was some time with COVID and such. But either way, it's going to be its 25th iteration. It is the brainchild of Mr. Glenn Harveston. But the culmination of many years of hard work by many, many people. But Glenn should get most of the credit for it because it is his brainchild. And he's the one that puts the most of himself as well as his money into it. It's a fantastic festival. Doesn't really cater to the new wave of British heavy metal crowd so much. It's not that kind of festival. It kind of started out as a power and progressive metal festival, hence the name. But it certainly has branched out over time. There's been years where you had Isan from Emperor did a couple of solo shows there. Let's see, Overkill certainly don't really fit into that vein. November's Doom just this past year, who had a fantastic set, and many others throughout the years that have made appearances there that don't really fit into the prog or the power per se, that little compact box. But I think the festival's better for it. There's only so many bands within the progressive and the power metal genres that you can have without really having to start repeat bands if you want to keep having high calibers of headliners and such. And I think that just made the festival grow over the years and get it to the success that it is. Next year being Glenn's kind of walk off into the sunset, he's letting go of the reins and passing them down to another guy who I'm very proud to call a friend, Milton, who is going to be taking over the festival, and I think he'll do a really great job with it, and I'm going to be honored to keep working with him in whatever capacity he will have me. But so this past year was my first year on the actual festival crew. I've been going to the festival, like I said, this year was 24. I started going at Prog Power 4. I missed Prog Power 22 when I went to the Netherlands to see Arjen back in 2023. And I wasn't able to make both work that year, and I had to pick one. Sadly, Prog Power was the odd man out. But other than that, I've been to every single year since Prog Power 4. And I've always had a blast. Just such a great run festival. Very organized, and if something goes wrong, they're the best crew in the business. If something goes wrong, they will do their damnedest to A, prevent it, and B, if the inevitable does happen, they will go to the ends of the earth to make sure that everything is made as right as it can be within the constraints that they have to work with, be it time or whatever. Lots of visa issues this year. Holy shit. And not just visas, bands dropping off for this reason or that reason without going into really a whole lot of detail. Some of it very public, some of it not so public, some of it not public at all. But yeah, enough about that. Just a truly wonderful fest. Next year being the last year under Glenn's stewardship and helm. But I was brought on this year due to a friend of mine who had been a longtime member of the crew, Jim Williamson, who he was kind of part of the lobby slash vinyl club. It's the adjacent little venue that's attached to Center Stage Live in Atlanta, which is where the festival's held. Also has a very rich wrestling history. If you were a fan of Jim Crockett Promotions or WCW back in the 80s and 90s, a lot of stuff was done at Center Stage. Andre the Giant's last television appearance was there. So a place that's very rich in a lot of history, be it music or pro wrestling. But yeah, unfortunately, my buddy Jim passed away earlier this year, and I was asked if I would take his spot on the crew, which basically someone like me in that position, I help to usher the bands back and forth to their signing sessions, and then ensure that the signing sessions run smoothly, making sure that people are going through doing their we'll have limits on the number of items that people can get signed, particularly if it's a large line. And trying to make sure everything goes smoothly as it possible can. Photos and stuff like that we try to do at the end. And so just trying to get everyone through in a nice, orderly manner so that everyone possible can get their items signed or a picture or whatever it is that the band feels like doing and has time to do. So that was my job this year, helped with load in and load out and such. But, it affords me a really great opportunity to be able to talk to some of these bands, even if it's just for a few moments while I'm walking them backstage up to their signing table and such. Had some cool conversations with the guys in November's Doom, Green Carnation, and of course, the main one that I really got to talk to for a little bit was Night Demon. Represent, Jarvis Leatherby being the gentleman who is the main force in that band. It's kind of his brainchild. He's the only consistent member over the years, and this year they are celebrating the 10th anniversary of their first album. And they got to play a really killer set at Prog Power. I've seen them a number of times. Opening for they've opened for who have they opened for? I believe I saw them open for Satan. I've seen them at Hell's Heroes. I saw them open for King Diamond. I think it was either King Diamond or Wasp. I get those two mixed up because they were the same weekend. I believe it was King Diamond. Just a really great set of guys, a really great band. But it was the best set I'd ever seen them play wholeheartedly. And it was really great to actually be able to talk to Jarvis and be able to do so with some context, because I've spoken to him before, but he wasn't going to know me from Adam. Why would he? I'm a fan of the show. There's lots of fans at lots of shows. You see him and such, but ever since I've been able to take over the reins of running the socials for Satan, and helping Jarvis and the guys out with that, because Jarvis is Satan's manager. I've been able to have some really cool conversations with him and such, and just kind of game plan how we want to do things and whatnot. So it was cool to actually be able to meet him in person and have the opportunity to kind of ingratiate myself to him and such. Got a cool shot with them after the signing session. And yeah, just a really great set. They were the main band that I stood in and watched. I think I watched all of their set, save for the first song and maybe the last part of the last song, because unfortunately their set kind of butted right up against signing table times. So I had to run out and do my escort and stuff of the bands and whatnot. But just a really killer set. Jarvis did not, and Jarvis being the lead singer and bass player, I don't think he uttered one word to the crowd the entire time, and it just worked. A lot of times you'll get that and the band seems kind of pretentious, or they're just not engaging with the audience or whatnot. They didn't need to. The music engaged with the audience, and I don't think there was a person in that room that was bored or otherwise not enjoying that set. They played their hearts out, and it was without a doubt the best Night Demon set I'd ever seen. And I've seen them now probably 5 or 6 times, I believe, and just a killer set that I greatly enjoyed. But so I got done with Prog Power, 4 18-hour days in a row, just busting my ass working. I got worked like a rented mule, but that's not indicative of anything negative about the festival. I mean, we all work our asses off to bring the festival to everyone in the smoothest way possible so that everyone can enjoy their time there, because tickets for that fest are not cheap, and so you can't run a haphazard festival with a bunch of fuck ups and everything else and have people pay that kind of money and have them keep paying that type of money every year, because it's a non-starter if your festival's not run smoothly and you don't have a great caliber of bands and a great crew to support the bands and the fest and everything else. Then you're not going to have the repeat business and your festival's going to die. And Prog Power has sold out almost every single year that it has been a thing. Some years faster than others. Some years it'll sell out in a matter of minutes. Some other years it'll sell out in a matter of hours, days, weeks. It's been a couple times where I think it took a couple of months to sell it out, and then there's been a couple of times where it didn't sell out. But it's a great festival every single year. And even if for people like me, this being my first year on the crew, but even when I wasn't on the crew, I could go one year and care about maybe one band on the whole festival, but it was a family reunion. You go see people that you see once a year or once every couple of years if they're not able to make every year or whatever. And so truly just a really great time. And being on the crew, I don't have as much time to hang out with my friends and see them as much as I'd like to, but it's really a sense of pride and such that I get to help bring this to everyone in my small role. I'm by no means the linchpin that holds it all together. But the respect that I got from everyone else on the crew coming on this year and being able to fit right in, because it's people that I've known for years. I just haven't worked on the crew with them so much. That I did do days 1 and 2 crew last year, but the main festival's considered days 3 and 4. Days 1 and 2 are kind of your warm-up days a bit. And so I worked festival crew days 1 and 2 last year, and then 3 and 4 I went back to vending with Lance King and Nightmare Records, but he's retired now from vending and such. So that's what allowed me to be able to be a replacement to come in for Jim. But yeah, so I had a lot of fun with that, and then no rest for the wicked. I'm originally from Georgia, so my mom came and grabbed me, and I went back to her place and spent the evening there and got some sleep. And then the very next day I got up and washed some clothes and such. And then I was back on a plane that night to head over to Amsterdam for the main stretch of my time off that I took. I had several different objectives while I was over there. I was going over there to see Arion, which is, if you're not familiar with Arion, they are a Dutch metal project run by a gentleman named Arjen Anthony Lucassen. My favorite living composer, and what I would constitute a composer is a multi-instrumentalist who writes music for different parts, or different instruments rather, not just, a songwriter, say like, any number of guitarists you may think of, or singers of a band or whatever. What I mean by that is Arjen sits down and he writes the keyboard parts, he writes the melodies, he writes the guitar parts, he writes the bass lines, he writes the lyrics. So someone like that. So my favorite living composer being Arjen, and my favorite overall composer, if you're counting dead or alive, would be pretty much a tie between Arjen and Frank Zappa. But he's kind of a notorious recluse. He's in his mid-60s, and he just doesn't he doesn't play live very much. And that was the whole point of forming Arjen. Was he was in the Dutch band Vengeance and Bodine back in the 80s, and he left Vengeance towards the end of it was probably 89 or 90, maybe 91. I can't recall. No, I think he was gone by 89 or 90. Because he just didn't want to play live anymore. He's he suffers from stage fright, and he's a fantastic guitar player and singer. But he just, there's just, you've got these mad geniuses that just don't like performing, and it's fine. So he put out a solo album, and then put out another solo album after that, and then eventually started a band called Arjen, which was meant to be overly complicated psychedelic fantasy space metal. I don't really know how else to put it. But it was never meant to be played live. It was, very intricate, many layered instruments and so on and so forth. And his longtime collaborator and producer, Joost, convinced him back 10 years ago or so, because I don't know how much Joost had in putting together the Theater Equation, which was a live production of The Human Equation, which is an album of his from 2004, I think, maybe 2002, now that I think about it, but early 2000s. They did a live show of that in 2015 in a theater in the Netherlands, but Arjen was not involved. He gave it its blessing and such, but many of the people who played on the album were involved, James Labrie, so on and so forth. But Arjen was just like, I don't want to play live. That was the whole purpose of me forming this band. So if you want to go out and play my music live, that many of you performed on, by all means, just please do it justice. And they did. And I think that got the wheels turning in Joost's head, where he was like, hey, maybe we can do this ourselves. Maybe we can get Arjen to agree, maybe not go out and perform constantly the whole night, but maybe he can go out and sing a few songs or play guitar here or whatever, go out and say a nice speech to the crowd, whatever. But he was convinced to do it. So in 2017, they did the Arjen Universe, which was a best of probably a 2-hour set best of Arjen and another one of his projects, Star One, and such, and it went over very well. They wound up releasing live recordings of it. They did a Blu-ray, they did a nice CD earbook package, they did vinyl, and then a couple years later, 2019, they did Into the Electric Castle, and I may have those switched actually. Into the Electric Castle may have been, no, Into the Electric Castle was 2019. No, I don't have that switched. I'm sorry. So 2019, they did Into the Electric Castle, which was the third Arjen record, behind Actual Fantasy being the second one, and the first one, Final Experiment. Sorry, I had a brain fart there for a second. But the third album they did, and they brought in a whole cast of characters and such, and they kind of did it again. And Arjen is, again, still suffers from stage fright and such, but he comes out and, like, Into the Electric Castle, he plays a character on the album called the Hippie. And it plays into the theme of the album and such. But so he came out and did the Hippies parts. During Arjen Universe, he came out and did a couple of things as such. But then COVID hit, so they weren't able to do anything in 2021. Kind of see the theme here. They're doing every 2 years. Well, in 2023, they did 01011001 Live Beneath the Waves, which is another Arjen record, 01011001. They did it in its entirety and some other stuff thrown in sort of as an encore. And I went to that, and it was a fantastic time. One of the best live productions I've ever seen in my life. The sound was great. The set list was the album plus some other extra stuff, so I knew what I was getting into. That was fantastic. But while I was over there, I fell in love with the Netherlands. It's just such a great country. I don't think I could live there. I'm too much of a rebellious American, but I more than had a blast being there for the week that I was there, week and a half that I was there. And so when the time came for them to do another set of shows this year, they were celebrating the 30th anniversary. And so I had to figure out a way to go back. So that's why I went to the Netherlands. Specifically, I landed in Amsterdam. I stayed with my friend Mac, and then the show itself is in Tilburg, but not too far away from Tilburg, about 20-25 minutes by train, is Eindhoven, which Satan fans, as well as many other metal fans as a whole, would know Eindhoven. It's a very famous metal city. And you know the Dynamo Club, and so many other things. Dynamo Open Air, and you know, I mean, Death did a record there, or a live record there. The Satan Dynamo show, the first show they ever did outside of the UK, was at the Dynamo. Although the Dynamo as it stands now is not the same club. It's on the same site, but they tore down the club in like 2003 or 2004, I believe. And rebuilt it into a much bigger venue than it is now. So they no longer have Dynamo Open Air because they're able to actually do the Dynamo Metal Festival indoors. So that was part of my reason for wanting to stay in Eindhoven, was so that I could go to the Dynamo. And I wanted to buy a shirt, but I get in there, and after I'd got to the Netherlands and spent a couple days in Amsterdam, went down to Eindhoven to grab my Airbnb and drop my stuff off. And I was like, oh, I'll grab a shirt real quick because I'm staying 100 feet from the Dynamo. It worked out perfect. So I go in, and lo and behold, I guess you can't buy a shirt there. You have to go to their website, buy it, and they have to ship it to you. They don't ship to the United States. So I got to get shipped to my buddy in the Netherlands, and he'll send it to me. But yeah, so that's the Dynamo. I took this picture just because I really love how it's got the lettering kind of built into the mason work there. I thought that was really, really cool how they did that. But so another reason that I wanted to stay in Eindhoven was it was a different city than Tilburg, which is where I stayed last time, and I wanted to kind of you know, check some other places out, maybe see if there were any cool record stores or anything in Eindhoven. There's a couple, but I didn't really find much that I really cared about all that much. But the other reason is there's a great fan of the band and friend of the band who lives right in the Eindhoven area named Henry Certain. And he was kind enough to take me on a tour around Eindhoven and kind of tell me some cool stories of the band back in the day, and kind of helping to start the Dynamo, because he was part of the group of people that helped start the Dynamo Club in 1981. And you know, he's very humble. He won't take all the credit for it. He shouldn't take all the credit for it, but he doesn't try to take credit for things that he didn't do. You know, he was like, hey, I was the idea guy. I didn't execute much of anything. I kind of brought forces together that did the execution of it. I just kind of helped with the ideas and such. But I got to spend a wonderful day with him, walking around and just soaking up a bunch of history about metal in Eindhoven and such, and got to listen to some old stories about that Dynamo gig in '83, or in '80, February '83, as well as them going back a few more times with Satan and Pariah and Blind Fury, for that matter, and such. So it was really cool to soak up all of the history and such there. I really wish I'd gotten a picture with him, but I completely forgot, because him and I talked for several hours, and then we parted. It was raining and such too, so it wasn't the greatest time to try to get a picture. But so the next time I go back, and I will be going back probably in 2 years, I will most certainly spend another day with Henry, and I will get a picture with him this time. But yeah, so before going back to Amsterdam after the Arian shows and such, there's another great fan of the band who I've been honored to become friends with, named Friends. And we met up at the train station in Eindhoven. He doesn't live in Eindhoven, but he lived close enough to where he could jump on a train to come down there and hang out for an hour or two. And so I did get a picture with him, and we did not mean to wear the same shirt. It was not at all coordinated, but thought it was hilarious. He is of Suspended Sentence is probably his favorite Satan album, to hear him tell it. And I have a very large affinity for that record too. I love the Michael era. I love Brian, and I love Swifty, and I love Trev, and I love Lou, but the Michael era is something very special as well. And so it's funny because I'm trying to look out for him, and I knew what he looked like, but I saw him. He was probably 200 feet from me, and I just kind of saw the gray hair kind of bulging out under his hat here, and I saw the shirt that kind of looked like it said Satan right here, and I go, I bet that's him. And as he walked closer, I realized that we were wearing the same shirt, and I thought it was absolutely hilarious. He gave me some really cool stuff. I don't have them right here. I thought I did. I didn't grab them, but he gave me some cool Skyclad ticket stubs from a show that he had attended at one point. And then I took some cool pictures of some press release documents and stuff that he had. Sadly, they were his originals, and he didn't have copies. I will try to get copies of them at some point. I'd share the pictures here, but I'm gonna wait until I can get some scans of them or something. Even if he needs to send them to me, I scan them in and send them back to him. I will facilitate something to get those, because there were some really cool things there. But one thing that he pulled out of his bag that I was in no way, shape, or form expecting, and I was very, very touched by it, was this here. This is an original Pariah the Kindred shirt, and it's really beat up. It's got some holes in it and such, and there's some writing and whatnot on the back. But it was stage worn. Michael took it off and threw it into the crowd when they played at, I think it was the Dynamo, but I can't recall because they did a bunch of shows in the Netherlands. But he snagged it, and then he'd wind up getting another one at another point. And so he brought this one to me as a gift for the archives. And the cool thing about it is I'd forgotten about this, actually. So I got it framed and hung it on my wall so that I had it. But he actually sent me a message earlier. Let's see where it is. Oh, it must have been on Facebook. Hold on. He sent me a really cool message with some background on that. And he goes, I was just sorting my concert tickets I collected over the years, and together with the Wacken 1999 ticket was a short report I wrote up myself about the festival. Pariah played there, and after the show, Lewis, my friend, road crew Europe for Satan, and I hang out all night with the Pariah guys, watching Merciful Fate, Saxon, Tigers of Pantang, and drinking a lot of beer. In my report, it also says that it was an extremely good time and everyone started writing on my Pariah shirt. So there was the damage done on the shirt that I gave you. So the writing on the back, I didn't get a picture of it because it's very, very faded at this point. It almost looks like it was written in yellow marker. But I didn't get a photo of it because I really can't tell you what it says. And I stretched the shirt out and really tried to read it. But so I thought that was really cool that there's a story behind that shirt and such. So I was very happy to get that. But yeah, I don't have a whole lot more to go over today. I wanted to pop in because it's been a little bit, and I wanted to get an episode out since it has been a little while since I've gotten one out. But Henry and Franz both do want to try to figure out how to come on the show. And so the list of people that I have that want to be on the show is ever growing. And so I'm going to start trying to book some guests here coming up over the next month or two, and start trying to not do so many solo episodes. I'll still do some from time to time, but I do want to start trying to bring some more people on and get some really cool perspectives of things, and talk to people that were there or people that were part of it or whatever, Jarvis has said he'd love to come on and talk about them and talk about Night Demon and such. I would more than love to have that happen. I'm very thankful for him for all the opportunities he's given me regarding all of this, and quite frankly, his blessing for doing this show, because I did ask his permission if he wouldn't mind me starting a podcast about the boys and such, and so he gave me his blessing there too. So I just wanted to pop on and give a quick update to everything, and I'm going to try to keep this one right here under 30 minutes. So yeah, I'll catch you guys in another week or two here on Casting the Act. As always, thank you so much for joining. And if you see the crawler at the bottom there, if you could find any of those instances of us are online, whether it be on YouTube or Instagram or Facebook or whatever, give us a like, a follow, and share us around to anyone who might be interested. I'd greatly appreciate it, because I really would like to see this show grow. I'm doing it for fun, and I'm always going to do it for fun. but I would really like to have more people that may have some interest in it be able to find it and enjoy it as well. So until next time, thanks everyone.